Good morning, student. Today we are going to learn the poem from 12th standard, Father Returning Home, composed by Dilip Chitre and prepared by D.B.Ade, Maharashtra Junior College, Khaperkheda. Let us see the poem which is composed by the Dilip Chitre about the poet Dilip Purushottam Chitre was a bilingual poet and translator with a remarkable work in Marathi and English. His versatile creativity extended to painting, filmmaking, and his notable contribution as a magazine columnist. He received the prestigious Sahitya Akademi Award both for poetry as well as for his well-known translation work. Says Tuka, popular Abhangas is called Spiritual Poems by Sant Tukaram. He had started translation of literary work of Sen in Marathi at the age of 16. Exile, alienation, self-distinction and death are observed to be the major themes of his work. Let us see about the poem. Father Returning Home by Dilip Chitre is probably the most famous poem by this Indian poet. It is an autobiographical poem where the poet shows the loneliness and word weariness of an old man in the modern society by depicting a picture of his own father returning home from work. The poem is true account of the poet's father Purushottam Chitre's life in 1957 when they moved from Baroda to Mumbai. The poem is expressive of the poet's feeling for his father at the latter stage. He realized how neglected and uncared for his father was, even after being the lone bread earner for the family. But the poem, Father Returning Home, has gone beyond its autobiographical significance. It is now an account of any old man who does an hard work for his family but leads a monotonous life where no one is there to take care for him, to converse with him, or to understand his feelings. The poem consists of two stanzas of 12 lines each. It is written in free verse with no particular meter or rhyming scheme followed, and the lack of rhythm is symbolic of the poet's father's uncared for life. The language is easy and simple but full of symbolic expression and poetic devices like simile. It is in first person narrative where the poet speaker narrates how his father returns home and what he does thereafter. Let us see the poem. My father travels on the late evening train, standing among silent commuters in the yellow light. Suburbs slide past his unseeing eyes. His shirts and pants are soggy, and his black raincoat stained with mud, and his bag stuffed with books is falling apart. His eyes dim by age fade homeward through the humid monsoon night. Now I can see him getting off the train like a word dropped from the long sentence. He hurries across the length of the grey platform, across the railway line, enter the lane. His chappals are sticky with mud, but he hurries onward. In simple, this is the life of suburban people, especially the example of Mumbai. Let us see the analysis of the poem. My father travels on the late evening train. The poem begins with the speaker's description of his father's traveling home. The father is traveling in a late evening train after finishing his work for the day. Late evening train may indicate how long the father works so that it regularly gets that late for him to return home. Standing among silent commuters in the yellow light. The father is standing among the silent passengers in the yellow light inside the train compartment. This line is indicative of his suffering during the journey. After working so hard, he is returning home standing on the footboard as he doesn't get a seat there to relax. The silent commuters are not friendly enough to converse with him or among themselves. The yellow light is not the best thing either to promote any cheerfulness. All these things further intensify his agony and make the journey monotonous. Suburbs slide past his unseeing eyes. This line tells us the suburbs are sliding past the moving train, but the poet's father has no intention to look at those. He is unmoved by these scenes, for he has seen those many a times and finds nothing new or interesting in it. So the sliding landscape also add to the sense of monotonous or monotony. His shirt and pants are soggy, and his black raincoat stained with mud and his bag stuffed with books is falling apart. Now the poet makes us know that it was a rainy day. His father's dresses are all wet with the rain water and the black raincoat is damaged with mud. The bag he was carrying was stuffed with books and he was struggling to handle it. These lines are again indicative of the difficulties poet's father has to face during his journey. It gets even worse in the rainy season. The black raincoat might indicate the lack of color in his dull life. Again, his bag full of books hints that he has an educated and scholarly man. Not that unimportant that one would think from his ordinary routine journey. His eyes, dim by age, fade homeward through the humid monsoon night. Now, in this line, the poet gives us an impression of his father's age. His eyesight is dim by his old age. The father looks homeward with his low vision through the humid monsoon night. The gloomy atmosphere also adds to the dullness of his life. Now I can see him getting off the train, like a word dropped from a long sentence. This is very important line. The poet's father gets down from the train. Here D.B.Ade has used a fine simile in comparing his father to an unimportant word in a long sentence. This is quite unique. He says that his father gets down just like a word dropped from the long sentence. The poet indicates how important his father is to the crowd in the train. It does not really make any difference whether he got down or not. He is not that relevant to the rest of the world. He hurries across the length of the grey platform, crosses the railway line, enters the lane. His chappals are sticky with mud, but he hurries onward. After getting off the train, the father hurries toward his home. He crosses the grey platform and the railway line and finally enters the lane. His sticky with mud chappals can't prevent him hurrying onward. The poet has used the word hurries twice to bring in a sense of escapism from the dull, humid atmosphere, clay platform, and muddy street where no one would care for him. He just wants some solace at his own home. In this first stanza of the poet tells us how his father is struggling for the work. In remaining stanza, we shall continue in the next time.